New game, new name. Welcome to NASCAR 2005, Chase for the Cup, presented by EA Sports. With a new year comes a new challenge, as EA Sports asks you to work your way up through the ranks and fight all the way to the top of NASCAR's premier series as you chase the NASCAR Nextel Cup. So let's get you up to speed with all the new features in this year's game. Ever wished you could race a truck or an open-wheel race car? What about some of America's finest production cars? Well, EA Sports is going to grant your wish. In NASCAR 2005 Chase for the Cup, you'll be able to drive in 4 of NASCAR's most competitive series: the NASCAR Featherlight Modified Series, the NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series, the NASCAR Busch Series, and America's premier racing series, the NASCAR Nextel Cup Series. In addition to all those exciting new series, this year we're giving you the keys to some real American muscle. This year you'll be racing cars such as Ford GTs and Dodge Vipers on everything from tricky road courses to some of NASCAR's most historic tracks. Ready for a fight to the top? If the answer is yes, then this brand new game mode is just for you. In this feature, you'll get to live the life of an up-and-coming driver with aspirations to reach superstardom in the NASCAR Nextel Cup Series. Don't think we're going to start you off in the Cup Series right away, though. It's going to be a tough climb up the NASCAR ladder, and you'll have to prove your worth in the lower series first, starting with the NASCAR Featherlight Modified Series. Chalk up a few impressive races, and you might just get offered a testing session for a new contract and a new ride in a higher series. Don't like the idea of not being able to run the whole show? Hey, no problem. If you earn enough money, you can start your own team and control everything from merchandise prices to training for your crew. Remember, if you want to move through the ranks quickly, the name of the game is Prestige. The Chase for the Cup used to just be a term thrown around in the garage to describe a Nextel Cup team's run to the championship. Well, in NASCAR 2005, chasing the Cup isn't just a term anymore, it's a reality. In this new game mode, you'll have 10 races to go. The top 10 drivers in points will have their point totals reset, and the chase will begin. Head to the all-new Chase for the Cup feature under Game Modes to experience your own personal chase for the NASCAR Nextel Cup. Once in this mode, you can adjust your starting position, your opponent's difficulty and starting position, plus many other difficulty settings. The harder you make it for yourself, the higher the reward, as you'll be rewarded skill points based on the difficulty level of your own personal chase. Hero or villain? Intimidate or facilitate? These are the questions that a NASCAR driver faces when out on the track. So it's up to you. Wreck your opponents and drive aggressively and you'll be thought of as a villain. Be fair on the track and pass your opponents cleanly, and you'll be viewed as a hero. So, what difference does it make whether I'm a hero or a villain, you ask? Well, if you're a villain out on the track, you'll have the ability to be a true intimidator and rattle your opponent's cage and open up some racing room. As a hero, you have a greater ability to share draft and a greater ability to earn friendships on the track. Keep an eye out, though, because you'll only be able to enable the Intimidator or Share Draft features once their power bar is completely filled. Have you ever thought that your skilled driving ability has gone unrewarded? Well, the folks at EA Sports are ready to reward your driving ability through the use of the new skill point system. As you race, you'll get rewarded for a variety of moves on the track. Head to the My NASCAR screen and select Skill Points to check out the skill points that are available in the game, how many points you have earned, and how many points you've spent. Spent, you say? That's right. You can now spend your skill points on Thunder Plates and receive unlockable items like tracks and paint schemes. As if head-to-head online racing wasn't hair-raising enough, we thought we'd up the ante and add 2 more human drivers to the mix. Now you can take your PS2 online and challenge up to 3 other online opponents. It won't just be the 4 of you out there on the track, though. You'll be able to fill the field with computer-controlled opponents if a greater challenge is what you're looking for. This year, we've also added a batch of new Lightning Challenge and Speed Zone scenarios. In Lightning Challenge, you'll be thrown into some of the most exciting and hair-raising situations of the Nextel Cup season. Speed Zone will allow you to hone your skills in all the different racing series. Well, now that you've gotten the rundown on what the latest and greatest features are in this year's game, get out there and begin your own chase for the cup. And good luck from all of us at EA Sports. So, the first thing people generally want to do when they get out on the track in a race car is put the pedal to the floorboard and tear around the track at top speed. However, this typically is not the way to turn the fastest lap around a racetrack. In order to be competitive out there, you're going to have to practice, then practice some more. So always make sure that you take full advantage of the practice sessions at each track. This way, you can learn to master the characteristics that make each one of them unique in their own way. Now, when you get out there in a practice session, the first thing you're going to want to do is start out slow. Don't try to turn your fastest time of the day on the very first lap. Start off at about 3/4 speed and get familiar with the straightaways, the entrances and exits of the turns, the banking, and the entry and exit of pit road. Now, after you start to feel comfortable with the car on the particular track you're on, gradually start turning up the wick and begin pushing the car more and more each lap. You'll start seeing your lap speed steadily increase. One thing you'll probably notice as you start going faster on these tracks, at increased speeds you begin controlling your car less with the steering wheel and more with the gas pedal. At higher speeds, your ability to steer the car gets reduced. This occurs because the harder you accelerate, the more weight gets shifted to the back of the car. This in turn reduces the traction your front tires have on the track. On the straightaways, this won't be much of an issue, of course. But once you get into the turns, if you don't slow down, you'll be missing that grip. And even if you try to steer it to the bottom of the track, your car is likely to slide up the racing surface. If you feel this happening, let off the gas a little when you feel your car start drifting toward the outside wall. Don't change your steering input now. Just lower your speed and you'll feel the car start drifting down toward the bottom of the track again. Mastering this and practicing exactly when and how to go slower in the turns is the key if you want to run fast. When controlling your speed, it's essential that you be smooth when applying pressure to either the gas or the brake. Your ability to do this will help keep you out of trouble when entering and exiting the turns. So, when you approach a turn, release the gas gently and gradually. This is referred to as easing off or rolling out of the throttle. Doing this will ensure that your entry into the turns will be smooth and controlled. Now, on certain tracks, you may have to apply some brake in order to reach the optimal speed necessary to comfortably travel through the turns. In these situations, you should apply subtle pressure instead of mashing the brakes. Gently applying the brakes when needed will ensure that your car is always underneath you and in a controlled state. When you feel the car make its way toward the exit of the turn, you'll need to get back in the gas so you can get back up to full speed and get a good run down the straightaway. Again, don't just mat the accelerator. You'll want to pick it up gradually so you don't build up too much speed too early and go sailing off into the outside wall. Mastering the entry and exits of the turns is one of the biggest keys to success out on the track. Once you've learned how to get around a particular track, you'll start finding that you get into a rhythm. You'll find yourself turning, letting off the gas, braking, and picking the gas back up again in the same spots over and over and over. Once you establish this rhythm, it's important that you remember these spots on the track. These are your marks. Hitting your marks during the race is going to be crucial to your success out there. Here's a tip. If you're having trouble finding your marks on the racetrack, turn on the Informative Best Line, or IBL. This will show you the proper braking and acceleration points around each track. It's important to make visual notes as to where your marks are on the track. Practice sessions provide the perfect opportunity for you to establish your marks and remember them for the race. That way, once the green flag drops and you're battling 42 other drivers, you can just keep it smooth and hit those marks. Managing your tires is going to be a key component in your racing career. All of those lines you learned will be worthless unless you are able to keep your tires fresh. With worn tires, your car will be a handful to drive out there. So the key to tire management is to pay attention to the subtle hints that your car is giving you. If you feel a slight rumble when you turn, that means you're driving the car on the edge and you're wearing your tires a bit more than you should. Once the tires start squealing, smoking, and are leaving skid marks, you're burning up your tires and need to either slow down or change your line. Tire management will be key if you want to keep your lap times fast during the race. Once you have mastered your ability to drive the track and you're looking to get a little more out of your car, you can begin to change the way that your car is set up. It's important for you to first get used to the car's default setup. Once you feel comfortable with this setup, head to the car setup screen and slowly start experimenting with your setup to try and shave a few seconds off your lap times. A good rule of thumb here is to make small changes, one at a time, and test each of them in a practice session. Be careful not to make any changes to your setup without testing them in practice. Otherwise, you may find your car undrivable in the race. There are two handling conditions that are common to race cars. These are tight, or understeer, and loose, or oversteer. Now, a tight condition is where your front tires have less traction than the rear tires. This reduces the amount of steering the car will have in the turns. So, you'll have to slow down a lot to get through the corners, or you'll push up into the wall. A tight car is generally a slow car. A loose condition is where the front tires have more traction than the rear tires. Since the rear tires have less grip now, it will cause the rear of the car to want to swing around or step out. This condition can be extremely tough to drive. However, a loose car can be faster than a car that is tight. Loose is fast, but also very dangerous and should be reserved for the experienced drivers. Because of this, the default setups in-game tend to be on the tight side. The groove, or preferred line, usually represents the fastest way around the track. You can usually tell where the groove is by looking for the dark streak of rubber that has been laid down by the other cars on the track. If you're having a hard time finding the groove, you can turn on the informative best line, or IBL, which will show you exactly where the preferred line is. Whenever possible, you'll want to run this line around the track. Okay, now listen up. This one is a little tricky, so listen carefully because it's also very important. The apex defines the point in which a turn transitions from entry to exit. While driving out on the track, you'll want to clip this section of the turn in order to get a good run back onto the straightaway. So in order to hit the apex correctly, you'll want to arc your car into each turn as late as possible. Keep an eye on the track, and as you see the turn approaching, keep the car out on the straightaway as long as you can before you turn it in. Once you make your entry to the turn, drive your car down to the bottom. You should hit the apex somewhere around the center of the turn, and then feel your car start making its way back toward the outside wall and back onto the straightaway. Remember, you'll want to apex the turn while maintaining as much speed as possible. This obviously takes a lot of practice, and apexes are different in every turn at every track. But once you master the art of apexing a turn, you'll be a force to be reckoned with. Another piece of the track is the apron. The apron is the flat section of the track that can normally be found just inside of the racing surface. Usually, it's beneath a yellow line. Because this portion of the track can be a very abrupt transition from a bank surface to a flat one, you should keep your car off of the apron when at race speeds. If you don't, you may send your ride spinning out of control. Whenever you need to use the apron, like when entering or exiting the pits, you'll need to be very careful when transitioning on and off the apron surface. Drafting is one of the most important racing techniques you can learn. Drafting, or slipstreaming, occurs when two or more cars run closely in line with each other. The lead car will punch a hole through the air, which cuts wind resistance and creates a vacuum that will allow the car behind to suck up to it and go faster. Now, this also benefits the lead car in the draft, since the trailing car takes away a lot of the air which normally causes drag on the car. Drafting will allow you to run at a faster speed than when you run by yourself, but it requires a lot of patience and a lot of practice, as the fate of two or more cars relies on your ability to stay in line. Drafting works best at bigger tracks with long, flat straightaways. Daytona and Talladega are perfect tracks to test the draft out. Once you've gotten the hang of drafting, you can also try another technique known as bump drafting. Bump drafting is when a car that is drafting behind another is able to suck all the way up to the car in front of him and place a nice square tap on his bumper. A bump draft will push the lead car and allow both the bumper and the bumpee to go faster than in normal drafting situations. Be careful though, bump drafting is very, very tricky. And remember, never bump draft in the turn. All right, now let's go over some terms that you'll encounter when you enter an event. It's very important for a driver to utilize as much pre-race track time as they can get. Practice is the first time a driver is able to take his car out onto the track. This is an important time to learn the track and how your car is handling. This is also a good time to start tinkering with your setup. Once practice starts, other drivers will make their way out on the track with you. Try to use the practice session to get a feel for the track, get your car prepared for qualifying, and to see how your setup works in race traffic. Once your car is set up how you'd like, advance to qualifying. During qualifying, the driver gets to run 2 timed laps on the track, all by himself. One important note about qualifying is that you will get a warm-up lap. After the pit official lets you out of the pits, you head out onto the track, but you won't be timed until you hit the start-finish line. You'll need to get up to speed as quickly as possible, though, as you'll want to start building momentum to lay down a good lap time. Qualifying positions for the race are determined by lap times. Whoever turns the fastest lap will start first or on the pole. The rest of the field will get set behind the pole sitter, fastest to slowest, based on their lap times. Happy hour takes place after qualifying, and it's your final opportunity to get out onto the track and practice before the race. Use this session to make final adjustments to your car. Use it, and use it wisely, as the last thing you want is an ill-handling machine during the race. Remember to use the other competitors on the track during happy hour to see how your car drives in traffic and on different lines around the track. Driving assists are EA's way of making your first few trips on the track a little easier. There are 2 sets of driving assists, full and limited. Full will basically help stabilize your car with stability control and slow you down in the turns to the appropriate speeds with auto brake. If you run limited assists, your car will be a little less forgiving, since we will remove the auto braking function from the assists package. If you turn your assists off, it will be up to you to control every aspect of your car's handling. It's recommended that you begin with one of the two available assist levels and gradually move up to turning all of the assists off. Share draft is one of the key functions that you'll need to learn to make some friends out on the track. Notice this green bar on your gauge cluster? When this bar fills all the way while drafting with the car in front of you, it will begin flashing. When this occurs, press the Share Draft button and begin building an alliance with the car you are drafting with. The longer you stay in the draft, the more skill points you'll earn, and the greater your alliance will become with that driver. The Intimidator button is an all-new feature that will allow you to get drivers in front of you a little loose so you can pass them. When this red bar fills up and begins flashing, press the Intimidator button to begin intimidating the car in front of you. The longer you intimidate a driver, the more apt they'll be to slide up the racetrack, giving you room to scoot right by. Intimidating is not the most respected move on the track, and you'll start making enemies quickly out there. So be careful how much you use it, or you may have a handful of angry drivers on your tail. Quick cautions are EA's way of making cautions a little easier on you, the player. Instead of having to run all the caution laps that NASCAR drivers do, the race will essentially be fast-forwarded to the point where pit road opens. After you make the decision to pit or not pit, you will either make a pit stop or stay on the track. After this, you'll be fast-forwarded to the restart of the race. When you pull into the pits, be it under green or under caution, you'll get a pop-up with your pit options. Here you can select everything from the number of tires you want to change to how much gas you want to add to your car. Also, you can try and fix any handling problems your car might have by making a few adjustments. You should be familiar with these selections from the car setup screen.